A dog's head. Full stop. Coroner seals called. Officer Gucci. Jelly beans. In the fucking depths of hell, the refrigerator is empty. I somehow know this even though I didn't open it. A wheelchair? At an elementary school?
What's wrong with you?
Probably a dog house. Not sure though since there's no dog around.
Alright guys, listen up. I can say with confidence that there is indeed something wrong with that radio. 20 years. It has been 20 years since Silent Hill on PS1 got released onto American retail store shelves on January 31st, 1999. And what a 20 years it's been. Hello everyone and welcome back to GameTalk, where we talk about games, new and old. And today's been a long time coming. I've been meaning to make this video for a while now, but I wasn't going to until I was comfortable enough. However, the time seemed fitting, and my ass is shitting. And today's the day we get to talk about the second horror game that I've ever played. Silent Hill. A place that isn't silent at all. What an impact this game has had on the horror genre, with so many games following in its footsteps. Well, after ripping off Resident Evil, of course. What can I say about Silent Hill that hasn't been said already? This is one of the most loved and protected series in gaming itself that does have a somewhat cult following nowadays, and was the first horror game that I ever finished. And don't worry, when going over this game, I'll try and avoid all bias when possible. But I've wanted to talk about this game for a while now, and with that, the development of this video will be very lengthy. Similar to what Team Silent felt when developing this game. Silent Hill's development has been an infamous story, and one that shows what developers can do when not listening to their superiors, which I totally don't condone, but works great for this story. A group of misfits in Konami that was never able to express themselves creatively and failed in their previous works was put together, because Konami wanted them to create a horror game that would appeal to the masses and overall try to make a similar impact that Resident Evil made. A game that would make your average American consumer want to get off his lazy ass and head over to the nearest retail store and purchase the biggest thing the PlayStation has to offer. This group, later known as Team Silent, weren't happy with what Konami wanted them to make, as they felt like it was going to fall flat on its ass like Ray William Johnson's career.
What's happening, gamers?
However, with this project, they were able to use their creative freedom, and instead of making a jumpy, cheap, bullshit horror game that Konami wanted them to make, they wanted to make a game that would move the player and appeal to their emotions. Once this idea was brought up, Konami thought it was terrible and that it would fail. As we know, this wasn't the case, and thus Silent Hill was born. Replace Silent with Hank, and you get the best thing created by mankind. Enough babbling about, let's get into Silent Hill. After showing you this image, it shows you the developers and the publishers, and then proceeds to show you the most foreboding and chilling intro the PS1 has to offer. While witnessing this odd quote, the fear of blood tends to create fear for the flesh. The distorted sounding mandolin and the clips of the cutscenes to come really emphasizes what this game represents. The feeling like something bad will happen. And as the mandolin transitions to a bittersweet guitar, you get a feeling of relief, whilst the mandolin makes appearances throughout the song as well. I love this intro as it expresses what the game is. You see clips of Harry Mason and his daughter Cheryl in a car on a cliff road. Cheryl is sitting in the passenger seat, even though the manual states that she's sleeping in the back. Dirty fucking liars. The intro ends with Harry seeing a silhouette of a person in the road and swerving to avoid it. And what blows my mind about the intro is that it was made by one guy. Yep. Takeyoshi Sato created all the CGI for the cutscenes, not just in the intro but for the entire game. I won't explain the full story, but basically he lived in the Konami offices and used all the computers after everyone left to render these scenes. Go look up the full story on why he chose to do that, it's amazing. The main menu is simple, but honestly doesn't need to be anything more. Difficulty options are easy, medium or hard. Starting up the game greets you with a cutscene of Harry waking up from the wreck, but Cheryl is missing. In a shock, Harry wanders the streets of the town to search for her. So the main objective of the game is to find Harry's missing daughter. After that, atmosphere kicks in. I can't help but to feel cold and alone at the first part of the game. This game exceeds in creating an emotion to feel the atmosphere. As you walk through the empty streets, you'll hear faint footsteps in the distance. Harry will run towards the direction of the footsteps, and to his surprise he sees Cheryl.
Cheryl? Is that Cheryl?
Harry, it's your own daughter and you don't know what she looks like. Even I know that's Cheryl.
Where are you going?
Harry, I don't think she's moving.
Hey, wait! Stop!
Harry, is there something wrong with you? Harry eventually follows Cheryl into an alleyway, and there you see the most iconic moment in any horror game ever made, alongside the zombie reveal and the dog hallway from Resident Evil. You open a gate and encounter a mutilated carcass of a dog, and then you notice a siren in the distance. It's quiet but noticeable. Then you'll notice the camera angles. It's not exactly fixed like Resident Evil, but moves depending on your position. The siren eventually gets louder as you walk through the alley. After you walk through another gate, the siren is now roaring at you, filling your eardrums as the sky blackens. The only resort Harry goes to is a match to illuminate the darkness as much as possible. You keep walking as the environment turns from creepy to vile. First you find a wheelchair with the wheel spinning on its own, then a bloodied gurney with a body underneath the sheet. As the environment shifts, the music will shift. The walls become bloodied, rusted fences, and as you reach the end of the alley...
What is this?
It looks like Play-Doh. You come across a crucified body as small creatures wielding knives come at you and attack you. You can't fight back, so you run the way you came, but you can't. There is nowhere to run as the way you came from is now blocked by a fence. So you die, you wake up in a diner with a cop, and Harry's just sitting there, questioning what he just experienced and if it actually happened. And you know what? That is a perfect intro and it exemplifies what this game is. A surreal experience that seems real but you don't know if it is. From here, Sybil Bennett, the police officer, questions Harry, asking him if he knows what happened in his town. Harry, however, explained that he just got here to have a vacation with his daughter. Sybil tells Harry that the only person she had seen in this town is him. Before leaving to call reinforcements from the next town over, she gives Harry a gun just in case he needs it.
And don't go blasting me by mistake.
You get some items, saved, and get attacked by a pterodactyl-like creature. After killing it, you are able to explore the town to your own free will. Movement is nearly identical to Resident Evil. Tank controls are used, meaning that pressing up and down moves you forward and backward, and left and right turns you around. Unlike Resident Evil, strafing is a feature, and you'll be able to do this using R1 and L1. Everything else, control-wise, is basically the same as Resident Evil, except for the fact that aiming up and down doesn't exist. Weapons, however, have a bigger variety than Resident Evil. Melee weapons consist of a kitchen knife, which is weak and doesn't have much range. It's better than nothing, but you can get good at it, like me. The knife, however, is useless, because 2 minutes after the diner you go back into the alleyway and find a steel pipe. The steel pipe will do moderate damage and has good range, but pick up the pipe at your own risk because right next to the pipe is... I'm sorry, Harry, but how is that you? There's an emergency hammer you get in the hospital's basement, which is hands down the best melee weapon in the game. There's also an axe, but I only used that about once throughout my playthrough, as it doesn't stun enemies like the hammer does. But I like how all the weapons require you to use timing, as there are no takedowns. Firearms consist of a pistol with 15 rounds in the clip, standard stuff. A shotgun, which is simply a more powerful pistol, and a hunting rifle, which I only use for boss battles. No matter what weapon you're using, whether this was intentional or not, you feel like an everyman. Just some guy trying to survive, and not some soldier with quick attacks and combos. The game is structured in parts where you explore the town and parts where you explore buildings and in between. While exploring the town, you can explore at your own free will. Certain roads will be blocked throughout the town, either to block the exits of the town or make you find different ways through alleyways and houses. Harry, how'd you get up there? If you look hard enough, you'll be rewarded with items such as ammo, health items, etc. You'll also notice that the streets are named after famous authors, such as Jack Finney, Richard Bachman, and
Ethan Bradbury.
While you can explore and get items, you aren't necessarily punished for just heading to the next area. There is this one part where you are punished technically, but I'll talk about that later. And the game doesn't have a save or inventory system like Resident Evil. You have unlimited save slots and unlimited inventory slots, which makes the street parts kinda pointless. I love them for their atmosphere, and sure, they're iconic, but if a Resident Evil save and inventory system was added, it would be a tense and scary series of street scavenging and item management. And this stuff dropping from the sky? It's not ash, it's snow.
And it's snowing out.
Told you. Fucking movie peasants. The street segments aren't bad, but it sure is disappointing. But all of it doesn't matter, because once you reach the school, everything changes. You are now put into cramped spaces with monsters that can lunge at you. The controls fight against you as the darkness and camera angles obstruct your vision greatly. And this is where the type of horror that this game portrays is finally shown. Psychological horror. Otherwise known as the fear of the unknown. This game has the tendency to completely mindfuck the player. At the start of the game in the cafe, you will acquire a pocket radio.
What's going on with that radio?
You'll notice that when monsters are nearby, the radio will sound, and when many monsters are nearby, the radio will be louder and more distorted. People will argue saying that this ruins the element of surprise. However, I think it just adds an extra layer to the horror. You may walk into the room and the radio will sound, but due to the darkness or the camera angles, you won't be able to see the enemies. So it's only when the enemy comes close to you where you will finally be able to take it out. However, sometimes the exact same thing will happen. The radio will go ballistic once you walk into a room, so you ready your weapon and move slowly to find Nothing. Just these silhouettes of something making squeaky noises. Just in the way that Resident Evil uses camera angles to hide the enemies, in Silent Hill, the game is implying that there are enemies close by, but there might not be. So what are you afraid of? Nothing? Something? You simply don't know. But we're not done yet. This game scares you in so many ways. Another scare tactic is just simply playing sounds in rooms. And that's it. There's no jump scare and you can't open the stall. However, at other times you'll encounter this. There's no monster there and it doesn't lead up to anything. However, when something like that happens and it actually does lead up to something, plays with your expectations. There are also moments where the game fucks with you so much that you yourself is just left there, baffled in what the hell is going on. One example is in the school. You enter this daunting door and on the other side of the hallway are these bathroom doors. You go in and there's nothing there, so you exit the room and that door is gone. And the hallway has been fenced off. There's nothing in the other bathroom either. After minutes of pure confusion, you look at your map and you realize that you're a whole floor above where you just were. The hospital held one of these moments that fucked me up as a kid. After finally getting to the hospital's basement, you were able to turn the generator on to access the elevator. So you go to floor 2 and 3, which were floors that were previously inaccessible, to find that the doors leading to the main hallways are locked. At this point, you're thinking to yourself, I probably missed something on the first floor in the basement. Once you go back into the elevator, there's now a 4th floor. Okay, we've talked about how this game likes to trip you out in many ways, but from the school, what happens from there? Once you reach the school and the abandoned building searching kicks in, the game puts you in scenarios where you have to reach certain places and get certain items. Some doors will require keys to open and others will require you to find another way to get to the other side, similar to Resident Evil. Something that Silent Hill does that Resident Evil doesn't, however, is the concept of the Otherworld. After many twists and turns in the school, you gain access to the clock tower and walk through a hallway with a siren going off in the distance. Upon exiting the clock tower, you'll find yourself to be in the exact same place you just were. But not really. And this is where the game fucks with you again. Once you enter the building, you'll realize that the school has turned into what looks like hell. The floor below you has turned into bloody, rusty grates, and the walls have gained a brown color. The monsters become aggressive and some rooms are now locked and unlocked. The environment itself just seems like a threat. So to extend the runtime of an area, the world would shift but the geometry of the building would stay the same. Because while Resident Evil's mansion was big, it was a pretty unique building. However, buildings in Silent Hill such as the school and the hospital are very realistic looking buildings as the rooms are basically the same. The Otherworld presents basically the same type of events that occurred at the start of the game, but now you have to stay alive in it. The atmosphere shifts as well in the Otherworld. While the atmosphere conveyed a message of loneliness and eeriness, now conveys the message of terror and makes you want to run. I wouldn't be surprised if this Otherworld system was the specific reason why this game was successful and made it stand out compared to Resident Evil. And the game keeps scaring you at every corner, such as a picture that you saw before has now manifested itself into real life in the exact same room. Or in the locker room. Previously, a sound could be heard coming from one of the lockers. You investigate it, and a cat jumps out, giving you a slight jump scare. However, in the Otherworld, actually, I'll show you PewDiePie's clip.
Oh, good. It's... okay. Nothing inside. How about all the blood? Seriously, a period locker now? Why would you do that? Such a waste of period.
Jump scares rarely happen in this game, but when it does, the game fucks with you big time, and you don't expect it. I also wanted to touch on the graphics. Sure, it's dated, but for PS1, holy hell. The lighting is great, and it's just the small details such as the snow falling and melting on the ground is incredible for PS1. Even features such as Harry panting after running is an amazing touch. Yeah, it's not graphics, but it's a nice touch. Also, the town never meant to have the fog. It was only implemented due to the PS1 not being able to render in all the textures and terrain at once. But this fog became a staple of the series, and it wouldn't be the same without it. The soundtrack, while some tracks are actually being songs, most are just ambience, and I'll say one of the best soundtracks in any game I've ever played. It was mastered by Akira Yamaoka, and his work is nothing short of brilliant. Especially when hearing that some of the tracks in the game was created by manipulating the sound of dentist drills. Go and listen to the soundtrack by yourself at night in the dark and you'll feel paranoid. In terms of puzzles, I've gotta say, this game is just brilliant. Resident Evil mainly used pushing object puzzles to change the pace of the game, but Silent Hill hands down has puzzles that force you to just pause the game and think for a couple of minutes. The school definitely has the coolest puzzles. The clock tower is locked, so what you have to do is look at the time on the clock and go to the reception of the school to find notes giving you a riddle on where you have to go next, such as a place with songs and sound is the music room. Once you get there, the piano is open with a few keys in the middle have blood on them. There is a poem on the wall called A Tale of Birds Without a Voice, and some of the piano keys don't work. You have to interpret the color and position of the birds in the piano in the correct order to receive the medallion for the clock tower. There's also a puzzle that gives you pictures with a number and more pictures with keypad underneath, and you have to determine the similarities of them and what the number correlates to in the picture. And if you follow my Instagram, Danka YT, I posted not too long ago the notes I took for the puzzles in this game, and it's great that I can just sit down and use my head in a 20-year-old horror game. I love it. One puzzle that stands out to most people though is the one used in the first boss fight. You'll find a fairy tale in the school library. It explains how a hunter shot his bow into the lizard's mouth, killing it. And what do you know? You get given a shotgun and the boss is a lizard. I think you can put 2 and 2 together here. And if you weren't paying attention and not reading the notes you come across, you might not know what to do. When I figured this out myself as a kid, I felt like fucking Einstein. As the game continues, the monsters you encounter become more aggressive and they'll come in numbers. Some monsters you won't even get a chance to see as it's in the dark, and since they're so fast, you don't think to look at them. After the school, you hear a church bell ringing and head over to the church. You'll meet a woman named Dahlia, and she seems to know a lot more than she's letting off. She tells you the hospital is your next destination and gives you an item known as the Flaros, which has no apparent use yet. Harry has no other place to go, so he goes to the hospital in desperate search to find Cheryl. You'll meet other characters as well. A gruff man named Dr. Michael Kaufman, who seems to know a lot more than he's letting off.
Have you seen a little girl anywhere? I'm looking for my daughter. She's only 7, short, black hair.
She's missing. I'm sorry. But with all those monsters around, I highly doubt that she's...
You are a rude, terrible person.
And Lisa Garland, a scared nurse who finally sees another human and hugs Harry in a sense of relief. After searching through the hospital in the other world, Dahlia keeps leading you to different places where you'll find Sybil again.
Harry!
Sybil?
I would make fun of the voice acting just like I did with Resident Evil.
Jill, hope this is not Chris's demons. Whoa, this hall is dangerous.
But in Silent Hill, I think it's good, but not for the reason intended. I talked about this in another video I made, but the voice acting isn't good on its own. But with the ominous background music and the odd pauses in the dialogue, the voice acting is very creepy and adds to the atmosphere. I'm still gonna make fun of it though.
Tell me everything you know. What's going on?
Darkness.
Alright guys, Dahlia explained everything we need to know. I guess this video's over.
My daughter. I've got to find her.
My daughter? I've got to find her. But Harry has the tendency to say, what is this?
What is this? What's this? What's this? What's this?
What are you? What are you?
And this part is hands down the best part in any video game ever made.
Hold it. Stop. Don't shoot. Wait.
I previously mentioned how the atmosphere changes when transitioning from the fog world to the other world, but the game knows what type of sounds to play and music to play at each time, such as when Dahlia tells you to head over to the antique shop and the game portrays a terrible feeling like something bad's about to happen. Or near the end of the game in this room here. In this room I felt sick to my stomach, so I did what I had to do and didn't enter that room again. This is what I said before, the game isn't just supposed to scare you, but it's supposed to tickle your emotions in many ways. It genuinely feels like the creatures you encounter here are at home and you're just invading their privacy. And the atmosphere is something that is still scary about this game to this day. Yeah, unlike Resident Evil, Silent Hill still scares me to this day. And that's saying a lot for a 20-year-old horror game, and the atmosphere really emphasizes the creepiness factor. Even the PS1 graphics is something that scares a lot of people today. The jagged textures make the game look so unique compared to everything else, and even that adds to the atmosphere. If you thought Resident Evil's atmosphere was great, Silent Hill shit on it. As you progress throughout the story, you'll dig through various things that give you hints on what happened in the town. The main story is told through dialogue, whilst the backstory is told through items you find. This plot is a bit weird and it's something that I feel like could be a lot better. And unfortunately, horror game stories have to be really good to immerse me into what's going on. Silent Hill mainly focuses on a culty black magic sort of story, which I'm not a huge fan of. Dahlia's daughter Alessa was chosen as the sacrifice to birth a god. Due to complications with her powers, she was burned alive, but somehow kept alive. Alessa knew what the cult wanted to do, so she split her soul into two. Half into herself and half into a newborn baby, which turned out to be Cheryl. 7 years ago, Harry found her on the side of a highway and brought her home. The cult used their black magic to call her back into the town, and this Otherworld are Alessa's nightmares manifested into real life. It's not crystal clear and it could be a hell of a lot better. Get it? Hell? Because... Shut your fucking mouth! The game will continue on, leading you to sewers, rooftops, piers, and carnivals, exposing what the hell is going on and confrontations with the now 14-year-old Alessa while Harry tries to make sense of what is going on and what if he's experiencing is real or not. The final part of the game is a place called Nowhere, which consists of places you have previously been in a geometry that is downright impossible, and you do this part without a map. And this part is definitely the scariest part of the game. This place shows you what the hell happened in this town and why Harry got summoned there. After meeting Lisa plenty of times throughout the game and caring about her, you meet her one last time. She expresses to Harry that she's a monster too, created by Alessa, and her memory of being Alessa's nurse has been wiped away.
I'm the same as them. I just hadn't noticed it before.
Lisa.
Stay by me, Harry. Please.
Harry pushes her away when she scares him, and this happens. And this is one of those scenes that you don't know what to feel. Sad, scared, relieved, you can't know for sure. But that's one of the reasons why this scene is one of the most famous scenes in horror game history. Eventually you find Dahlia one last time, and you find out that Cheryl is no more. She has reunited with the other half of the soul to become one. And this scene will play out differently depending on if you did certain things throughout your playthrough. First is the Kaufman side quest. If you do choose to explore, you will be rewarded when exploring the south end of the town. But guys, look, it's my favorite restaurant, Burger. While entering a bar, you'll find Dr. Kaufman and save his life. After that, he drops his wallet containing certain things. You'll then do miscellaneous tasks and receive a bottle with a red liquid in it. In a rage, Kaufman will take it off you and use it on the incubator of God at the end of the game. And there's also the Sybil side quest. You can get a plastic bottle in the hospital and fill it up with a small bit of red liquid, in which you can use it on Sybil when she gets possessed. And if you don't have the liquid...
And don't go blasting me by mistake.
If you didn't do the Kaufman side quest, you'll fight the incubator. But if you did, you'll fight the incubus, which both are a bit boring. But the incubus holds the scariest song in any game ever.
Huh? What the?
Yeah, remember when I mentioned dentist drills? That's it. After the fight, if you get the bad endings, Cheryl and Alessa disappears forever.
Thank you, Daddy. Goodbye.
That's supposed to be a sad moment, and it's the funniest line in any game ever. In the good endings, Alessa hands Harry a newborn baby, and Harry flees for freedom with Sybil or without, depending on if you did the side quest. The endings consist of good, good plus, bad, and bad plus, in which different people survive. And a UFO ending, which is a bonus ending that can only be achieved on multiple playthroughs when using certain items at certain places.
Have you seen a little girl around here? Short, black hair.
As with older games, we need to discuss if they still hold up today. I mean, this game's impact on gaming itself is still shaking to this day. Games can have an impact, but some don't hold up well to this day, such as the original Crash Bandicoot and Halo Combat Evolved. But no matter how influential Silent Hill was, is it still good? Yes. It is. This game now sits as a milestone on gaming itself, along with Resident Evil. However, Resident Evil is a game that I don't think holds up very well today. That's why the remake was made. That game definitely holds up today. If you're wanting to go back and play old horror games, this is a perfect one to start off with. Nevertheless though, Silent Hill on PS1 makes the good list and gets a 9 out of 10. If the story was better, I truly believe this game could be perfect, but we'll have to make do with what we've got. Silent Hill is an excellent milestone of gaming, but there are Silent Hill games with better stories. Much better stories. Well, this was a long video, and a long time coming as well. Thank you so much for sitting through it to the end. I would appreciate it so much if you shared this around to social media and gave it a like. Please hit the subscribe button with notifications turned on to know when I upload next. Thank you all so much, and I'll talk to you before you know it. See you later.